Hello and welcome to the Imagine Belonging at Work podcast brought to you by Rhodes Perry Consulting. I am your host, Rhodes Perry. And I'm laughing here because I'm having a good time with my good friend and colleague, Roe Thorpe, who I am super excited to be co-facilitating our upcoming workshop on April 23rd called Become an Embodied Leader for These Times, which is a somatics and peer-to-peer collective care practice. For anyone who's not familiar with Roe, I highly recommend that you get familiar with her amazing work. She's proud to have been an activist for social justice all of her life. Her work for LGBTQ plus equality, reproductive rights, and criminal justice reform, with all of the changes we've created, and for those that we now imagine, have given her a unique perspective on how people can create work together for a more just and fair world. She currently works as an advisor supporting social justice organizations and the foundations that fund their work. And I am just so grateful that we're going to be collaborating together on April 23rd for a workshop that really is designed for leaders who are navigating so much overwhelm and uncertainty in these moments. So the idea of the workshop is really to build up some skills to center and ground in the amidst all of the chaos, and to really to sit with some of these big questions with the folks that you're leading and to create the space to generate some new ideas on how to move forward. And so, Roy, I wanted to get started and just to talk about who we had in mind for this workshop. Recognizing, we're looking at leaders that are committed to fairness and inclusion, specifically folks who are social justice and movement leaders, funders, and community organizers. You work with these folks all the time. So could you talk to us a little bit about what some of the specific challenges for these folks are and how this workshop can potentially help?
Absolutely. And I'm so happy to be working with you on it. It's really fun to be able to collaborate and especially with someone I respect so much. So thank you for
Thank you.
inviting me to be part of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the people that I've been working with are, as you mentioned, they work in different kind of social justice areas. And there are things that people really have in common. I mean, first of all, as you mentioned, there is so much uncertainty, which it really is challenging because if you've set goals for yourself and for your organization and you already have a plan mapped out, now all of it is just being exploded and funding is being threatened and taken away. There's a whole set of attacks on various communities, sometimes the most vulnerable communities, immigrants, people of color, trans people, all of it. And it's just a barrage. It's different every single day. It's very easy to lose sight of what your aspirations are, whether to focus on the short term or the long term. Things are coming at you right and left. And the beauty of this workshop is that it will offer some tools to help people actually regulate their own nervous systems and be able to think about what are the options, what is a strategy that might work, how to be able to be a leader in this time and to feel like you have choices rather than just reacting, with the most urgent, most stressful thing. And being able to develop those skills is something that's going to be really important for navigating what's going to come next and what we're going to be facing for at least the next 4 years and who knows how long. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. Maybe you could talk about what participants will gain from attending, what you see as what they could expect to come away with and where they'll be at the end of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for that response. Very thoughtful. Number one, they'll gain the belonging practice guide, which you got advanced. You were one of our advanced readers to make sure, like, is this clear on some of the skills that we want to introduce during the session? And the key skill, right? Like we talk about somatics, and truly, really, that's like using our body as a compass, right? As kind of like if things are in a state of overwhelm, how can we trust our intuition and ourself and really ground in a moment when we're getting grabbed, right? Like we're getting pulled in a lot of different directions. So before kind of responding, like what's kind of going on for ourselves. And so the grounding practice is going to be really important. And it's something that participants will experience. How do we co-regulate together? How do we create the conditions for safety and trust to build this sense of belonging, to then kind of move into a strategy session with you leading, right? Around a big question, right? And that question is, what kind of leader do we need to become in this moment? Because the old shapes of leadership, may have served us up until this point. I'm, seeing this in my own practice. A lot of folks that are leading organizations or teams are recognizing, some of those old shapes aren't serving for where we're moving into the future. So a couple things, obviously there's going to be practical tools. People will walk away with a guide. They'll develop a deeper sense of connection and shared understanding with folks who get it, right? Folks that are in the space that they're in, so that they're not doing this in isolation and they're not feeling like they have to, do this all alone. They'll learn particularly about bridging differences, and we'll talk a bit about that and how, we'll work together in the space. And then really kind of clarifying, for themselves a new narrative for how they're talking about the ways that they're leading in these times. And they'll get to listen to how other people are describing the kind of leadership that they believe is needed for this moment to respond in a choiceful way, like you said, as opposed to reacting, which might feel really good in the moment, but could lead to some consequences that we might regret after we reflect on how we reacted rather than choicefully responding. So one of the things that we talked about, Roe, in the beginning was just recognizing like we are actively being collectively traumatized, and there's a lot of grief and a lot of loss that's being kicked up because of that. And so I was hoping if you could speak a little bit to how collective care, how that aspect of the workshop will help address this issue around leadership that we're exploring.
Yeah, I think it's important that we acknowledge that this is a traumatic time that we're all experiencing, and there is trauma after trauma after trauma. And I think for those people who are in leadership positions, of one kind or another, a lot of times the way that we get through is we don't acknowledge that because we're afraid of getting stuck there in some way, or being seen as feeling sorry for ourselves, or it's seen as a sign of weakness to acknowledge that. And so I think what we want to do is find ways to acknowledge it, to know that, we are experiencing this grief, and to also know how to own it and feel it and yet not be stopped by it. So we're going to be doing peer-to-peer dialogues and having a little bit of shared interactive learning to create community around this, so that that's the collective of the collective care, right? Is the idea that people can share their wisdom with each other and their strategies and their coping mechanisms, maybe with a little input from you and me about what we've seen work. And then, I think our ultimate goal is to help people build resilience and process their own grief without, again, being stuck there in some way. Like, there are ways to do this without getting stuck, and to acknowledge that, this collective trauma is not an accident. This is happening in a way that is intentional, and it's scripted, and it's, been thought out. And so it appears to be haphazard, but I think the chaos is very much orchestrated. So, because we're in a capitalist society and we're all under that, there's a lot of pressure to look like, oh, it's business as usual. But really, if we just go on with business as usual, it's not sustainable. We won't be able to keep up our good work. We won't be able to make good decisions. And so what we can do is use the power that we have to help everybody that we work with to move forward, and to also acknowledge that this is not an easy time, and to take care of each other. So my question for you, Rhodes, is based on all of that, if people are interested in attending, are there things that we can tell people about, how they can save their seat and what they should know about the workshop that would be helpful to them?
Absolutely. So thank you for that. Thank you for that response, Roe, and just really grateful to be co-facilitating with you on this. So for folks that are interested, right, in the description of this video, you'll see a registration link. So that's how you can save your seat. There's a number of ways that you can opt in. You can certainly share that with your colleagues. It's, together is better. So please, if you know someone who can benefit, please share that. The workshop itself is about 90 minutes. It is virtual, so you can join us if you have a strong internet connection wherever you want. And so if you're on a beach, great. If you're in the office, even better. Just come as you are, and know that after the workshop, the juice and the goodness is coming from connecting together, right? To be in community. So please come for the live event. For folks that do participate, if something comes up where you register and a meeting happens, right? You get pulled off center. You might need to return to doing a somatics practice later. You'll have that recording, and you'll also receive a copy of our belonging practice guide, which is a great resource. That if you liked how we structured the workshop, the guide helps you host something similar in your own organization if you have those skills and you want to give that a go. So that is a gift to you, and yeah, so that's how people can opt in. Is there anything else, Rowie, that you want to make sure that folks know before we close out this conversation?
I so appreciate this, Rhodes, and I guess I would just say this. I think it's I was sort of just comparing what's happening, the feeling of it to the beginning of COVID in some
Mm.
ways, the COVID pandemic, and how everyone was just frozen in place. And if you're feeling any of that, if you're feeling the overwhelm, if you're feeling frozen, if you're just not sure, absolutely, I think this workshop is for you. I think it's meeting you where you are. Or if you've started to try out some things and you want to kind of check in with how it's going and get some additional, fuel to help you move forward with that, it also would work for you for that. So we really want to be there to help people out and to create community in this time when being disconnected is the thing that the powers that be would love us to do.
Yeah, nicely said. So on that, we hope to see you on Wednesday, April 23rd. It's in the morning, 10 a.m., 90 minutes. Make that time for yourself. Share this opportunity with a friend or colleague who can benefit, and we will see you very soon. Thanks so much for growing the belonging movement.